Actually, I'll tell the story about the kid, yeah. So I went to probation, yeah. I had 2 appointments left. I was on once a month, yeah. So I walk into probation, it's empty. The whole place is just empty. I go to the receptionist, I give him my name. He says, I'll ring you. I'll ring the probation officer now. They'll come down and speak to you. Whatever, how probation runs, in it. So I sit there. Some kid comes out the office doors with his probation officer. She says, take a seat anywhere, I'll get you next week's appointment. So the kid comes and he sits down right next to me in the chair opposite me. So in my head, I'm thinking, the whole place is empty. I don't know you. Why would you sit next to me? Yeah. Why don't you just go and sit over there? Because probation is really an antisocial place anyway. You don't go there and be like, hey, everybody. So the kid sits next to me anyway, but he starts mumbling. But he's cussing under his breath, probably about the probation officer. So I turn to him and I say to him, I say, your life's fun, man. What you cussing for, man? So he doesn't know me, the kid don't know me, we have no rapport, no nothing. So he's like, yeah, what you on about? I said, yo, man. I said, your life's fun, man. I says, what are you up to? I said, you got a job? He's like, nah, I ain't got a job. But remember, we don't know each other, innit? So the conversation is not flowing. So I'm like, yo, you got a job and that, what are you up to? So he doesn't really want to tell me what he's up to, innit? So I'm like, nah, he ain't got no job. I'm like, yo, you got money in your pocket and that? He's like, yeah, you get me? Like, you know, so I'm like, nah, man. I'm like, do you go on holiday and stuff? You get me? You go abroad? He's like, yeah, I go abroad. I said, oh, so when you go on holiday, you don't have to ask no one for time off. You don't have to book no time off. You just book your flight and you go. He's like, yeah, that's what I do, man. I said, see? I said, well, you got a girlfriend in that? He says, well, I got a couple. So now we start laughing, me and the kid. So I'm building a rapport with him, just this little quick 5 minutes. So I says, oh, man. I said, see? I said, you got a gal. I said, you go fucking on holiday when you want. So you get up, you move on your own time, your own speed. I said, you're having fun right now. He said, you know what? You're right, my life is fun. I said, of course it is, man. I said, but do you want me to tell you something? I says, serious and fun, they're like, they're nowhere near to each other. I said, imagine a book. Fun is on the first page, serious is on the last page. I said, they're nowhere near each other. I says, once you get serious about your life, I said, you'll have less fun in your life. I says, and once you're having fun in your life, I said, you're not that serious about your life. Yeah? I says, have you ever been to prison? He says, yeah, I'm in prison, just come out of prison. I says, oh, so you're on probation now, license? He's like, yeah. I said, you ever had community service? He said, yeah, you got community service before, attendance centre. I says, oh, shit, man. Yeah, I said, so you've been community service, you've been in prison. I says, how much different charges have you got? He says, you've got a bag of different charges, about 6 convictions, 6 different charges. I'm like, oh, shit, same. So I said to him, yeah, man. I said, one day, you're going to get serious about your life, I said, and when you get serious about your life, you don't have that much fun. Do you understand? Just like I said before, I said to him, so once you do get serious about your life, I said, you're going to have all these hurdles in front of you that you have to jump, yeah? And he's like, hurdles? What hurdles? I was like, prison, fucking different charges, community service. I said, all these things are hurdles, you get me? He's like, yeah. I said, do you know who put these hurdles in front of you? So he says, no. No, who? So I'm like, you did. You put all these hurdles in front of you. No one else. Every time you choose to do something that gets you in trouble with the police, every time you choose something gets you in front of the courts, you get community service, you get sentenced to prison. I said, that's you putting all these hurdles in front of you. I said, and then when you get serious about your life, yeah, I says, you're gonna have to jump all of these hurdles. Then I said to him, how old are you? And he was like, 18. And I was like, you're 18? He's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, man. At the time, yeah, I said to him, I'm 38. He's like, you're 38. I'm like, yeah, I'm 38. I says, do you know what I'm doing with my life? And he's like, nah, what are you doing with your life? And I was like, jumping hurdles. I'm jumping hurdles in my life because of all the fun I thought I was having in my life by living a lawless life and doing as you please, but still paying the consequences for doing as you please. But you know, you think you're having fun, but you're not. So I said to him, you know, I hope you get it before you're my age, you know? And then he says, yeah, yeah. And the receptionist was the one that says, yo, have you ever heard of peer mentoring? And I was like, nah. And then he called some woman called Suzanne down. She came down. She ran through all this stuff with me. Then I did a 12-week course, became a personal well-being mentor. Then I quit the job that I had because I found something that I liked doing. I found something that was enjoyable. And I thought, I can quit it. Go and volunteer for all these places. Sign on to Universal Credit so I can carry on living, surviving. Before I was living with a wage. Universal Credit is just surviving. But I went on Universal Credit with the idea of, I'm going to get the job that I'm going to work for. So I volunteered for St. Giles, Engage, all these people, YMCA, probation, and after 2 years of volunteering and working for all them people, I got a job with Ingeus. So hard work does always pay off. So just put the work in. That's what I would say to anybody. Have that work ethic. Have that drive to say, you know, even if I don't get paid today, I'm going to get paid tomorrow for the work that I put in. Just put the work in, and no one can't tell you anything. My grandma said to me, you know, I was cussing about something, I can't even remember, and she called me over and she said, Jazeel, she said, do your best. She said, don't worry about nothing nobody else is doing. She said, do your best. Because if you do your best and you fail, she said, you tried your best, yeah? So that's it. So my thing to the youth and to anybody, because I wasn't a youth when I turned around and says, I'm not going to do crime no more, I'm going to get a job. And then when I turned around and says, I'm not just going to get any job, I'm going to get the job that I want, yeah? I wasn't a youth, so just do your best at any stage you are in your life and you'll get to where you're going. Yes, it's cliche, baby steps move you forward and all that stuff, but they do move you forward. So let's just keep moving forward, whether they're giant steps, baby steps, any steps, just take a step forward, keep moving.